Hi again, hi all streamers. We're back again with Maria01 and Oyama live session. This time we have a special guest, Susanna Rahkamo, here with us. And as usual, we will have a discussion with Susanna about some timely topics. Today we will talk about the road to success. And welcome, Susanna.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here, certainly. And to start with, I guess I could start with asking you the question, who are you, and could you tell us a bit about your background? Naturally, most of you know as a professional ice dancer, and certainly that is something that most might be familiar with, but they don't necessarily know what you do today. So could you tell us a bit about your background and what you do today?
That was my career, before the century changed. And so, yes, I had a really great chance to be first the European champion and the silver medalist at the Worlds 2 times. Olympics, 4th and 6th were the results. And then I did, with my partner Petri Kokko, we did 6 years professional career. Touring around the world, but also producing shows. So we did for the US television and the German television, and then we had 2 years a TV show here in Finland, in MTV3, and so it was more or less because we had to create the platform where we performed. Because we were performers, and so we had to have the place to perform and show it also here in Finland for the audience. In Finland, of course, we are the most well known, and of course in
still as well.
But so we had to kind of create that the shows and everywhere we performed. Here, of course, in United States and so on, there we were on others tours. After the millennium, so we then ended our sporting career, and obviously we both figured out, so what shall we do with our lives? And we both had an idea that we have to immediately start something, whatever it is, but not stay home, but just do something. And I started consulting. I started first telling my story for the companies, kind of how we went from last place at the Europeans to the first place of the Europeans, and how that journey happened. But then very actually soon I understood that that doesn't make big difference in a people's life. So it is like in athletes' career. So it is more systematic work of kind of how do you help the companies to be better, and organizations as well. And then I started more and more consulting and working with the companies to improve their performance. And there's 2 things that I noticed coming from a sporting science. The other one is that the goals and strategies for people in their work, in the workplace, were really kind of foggy. So people didn't really know why are they doing what they're doing. So because as an athlete, you know that
it's very clear. The target is clear.
So that was kind of one kind of observation. The other observation was that people came from universities and schools, and then they went to the work life, and then they said like, okay, so now you're professional, so cope with that and just do it.
Just do it.
That time didn't talk about coaching or kind of a coaching leadership. So that was kind of what I started then
doing. And that was early 2000s.
Yes.
And we'll definitely go into that. I think most of the startups and the people looking at this stream later as well are interested to hear about the lessons that you are also teaching today or coaching to organizations. But before that, I will also ask you, because at some point you realized you wanted to do a PhD as well. So just wanted to ask you about that as well. How did you come about to do a PhD, and could you tell us a little bit about what the topic was?
Yeah, I did, and I was really curious about creativity, and to kind of understand kind of what it is and how can you help the people to be more creative, and also companies to kind of enhance creativity. And I was lucky in my sporting time because ice dancing is pretty creative, or you can be very creative in that. Yeah. And so I was happy to work with the very top like creative people from the dance world and like movies, and from the TV and circus, and you name it.
All kinds of
professionals.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Yeah, and it was kind of observing them. Well, I noticed that their creativity is very pragmatic. Actually, it is that you go to work and you start doing, and then it comes something out of it. And sometimes you have kind of idea, sometimes you don't, and you just kind of have to
still go on. Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to kind of start to study it more, to really understand like how can you go and help the organizations and people and teams and so to be more creative. And my dissertation then was about actually growing to be an exceptional expert, and how, because you're always in some field of expert where you're also creative, and how the creativity actually comes to that expert. So where does it come from? Because it is a pragmatic way of kind of you all the time improve your performance and what you do, whatever you do, but then some just get something unique there. Yes. So how does it come to there? So that I was really curious about that.
Yes. So am I. That's very interesting indeed, and I think we will definitely discuss that a bit as well here today, because I think personally I thought always I'm not very creative because I was doing sports. And all the people are certainly, and I was doing also team sport, and we'll also talk about like team performance a bit, and but I was always thinking that I'm not very creative, but then later on I understood that I actually am very creative and I have a lot of ideas, but when I was younger I just thought that creativity is only about painting and being able to create some music or something, and that I think I have certainly a lot of questions also around team creative and team performance. But before we go into that, I think one of the topics that we've had here during the lives is like well-being at work, and especially mental well-being also. So as a fellow athlete, I also have to ask you about the transition from going from sports into working life, because when I ended playing ice hockey and switched to doing something like with my professional life, or I was trying to seek another passion simply than ice hockey, I thought that was really difficult. I struggled with that certainly in my early 20s then, but how was the transition for you from going from this like European champion to suddenly you said you were coaching some organizations, and that was not maybe such an easy transition in the beginning, or how
well, it was not an easy, and we were very, and when I say we both were discussing about it quite a bit with my partner Petri, that how do we cope it, and how do we what shall we do to make it easier. We had all those kind of known bad examples of how you can kind of mess up your life.
Certainly.
And then we kind of prepared that for a couple of years, like how do we make the transition, but it was not easy, because it's like we skated over 30 years.
Yeah.
So and that was the life. There was nothing else really.
Right. Yeah.
Like okay, so I did my masters that time, but anyways, there was nothing else really but the skating. So it was a scary thing, because suddenly you have the whole days of time, and you don't know where to put it. And that's why we also, like I said before already, that we decided that whatever we start to do, but you have to start immediately. It doesn't matter if it's the right direction or wrong direction, but immediately doing something. And then, like, when you are in motion, it's easier to steer. Like if you are like stationary.
Standing still.
So where do you kind of steer it?
Certainly very smart. To find a direction at least, you know, to start moving.
Start moving and then kind of figuring out. And then the other thing was that we knew nothing about life other than outside the ice rink. So we needed to start from zero, But then very quickly kind of noticed that, okay, so what we learned during the professional years and about training and kind of trying to get on the top of the world. So there's many things that we can kind of transfer to the normal,
to the real world. Certainly, and that's actually really interesting, those topics. I think we definitely need to have another session also to talk about the life of an athlete and because that transition is of course very interesting. But you seem to be very smart to kind of have you all were already anticipating the struggles and I think keep moving forward is also a very important lesson for startup founders and for entrepreneurs, because that's often the case. I think you said that especially when it comes to creativity, you don't always have any ideas. And I think that's the way it often is in a startup. You only have a bunch of problems, but you have no idea how you're going to solve them. You have no solutions, no ideas really, but you still have to go forward and make some progress. And I think that's also a takeaway from your kind of difficult transition from going into your new life, so to say.
And also that there in my dissertation, so I was touching that kind of so there's always a question that you are trying to solve, but sometimes you don't see those the real questions, so the kind of what you really have to answer before you try out things.
Right.
So when you trial, so you see, okay, it doesn't work this way, but if I solve that one, so maybe I get it going again. But again, if you don't try anything, you just never get to kind of to the core of the thing.
You just stand still kind of
exactly
and try to ideate the solution, which might not even work in practice.
Exactly, and it is easy kind of, it's like doing a choreography, so you can kind of imagine things, and then you say like, oh, there's too many arms, like where do we cut them off? So you kind of cut corners in a way, so you have to try out to solve the real problems. And sometimes it doesn't really work out, and then you kind of need to go back and they're like, okay,
back to the drawing board.
Let's think about something else.
And that's probably where eventually also the solutions come out if you try that long enough. And I think that's definitely close to or certainly around the topic. I wanted to dive into kind of our today's topic, the road to success, and actually start by asking you, like, according to you and also according to your thesis, like what are the secrets of creativity, but also the success of these 5 Olympic gold medalists that you followed, right? Because that was largely what you did in your thesis as well.
It was the multi-time Olympic gold medalists plus their teams. So which is actually maybe from the teams I learned the most, and discussing and observing them. So I kind of figured out that there's 6 critical things that happens on the road. So that you have to have that. If you don't have them, so you kind of struggle. And they are like, the first is that you have to have a drive, like a passion to do it. Because if you don't do anything. So you don't even start the process.
Right.
So that is the kind of essential thing. And of course, that needs to be over time. It doesn't mean that you have it like from the beginning, but you have to have it every day and nurture it. Like, because usually there is a time like span from when you start and when you get the success. So you have to renew it every day and go through the difficult days. So you have to have that passion. Then you have to do the persistent work, which you don't do if you don't have that passion and drive. But like it is said that, for example, Einstein has said it's 99% is persistent work. So you just have to do it. And then when you do that, like said before, also that then you start to see like if you do something, you start to observe more things that you can do differently. So it is also very important that you all the time grow in that process and do the work, and then you have more questions to ask. And with those questions, and they are that kind of a core of that creativity, with the good questions, you start to find also solutions. Then you kind of observe things, you see that somebody else have done something similar, you learn that, and discussing with others, you learn from other people, and so on, and try out, and that's kind of where the little sparks of insight kind of starts to kind of come. And very seldom they come like a kind of a big aha, but they are like small things, like almost like building a puzzle. It's like you get one thing right, and you kind of start to see like, okay, these things are fitting together, and that's a wrong puzzle piece, and don't take it. And you start to get an insight, and that's the kind of the fourth of the critical factor. So having a own vision about the thing, and that means that all what you know and what you have gathered to it. So you kind of trust that okay, this is it.
This is it.
But then the fifth one is that you have to be able to put the vision into action.
Yes.
So it is something different, like I said about the choreography, that you can visualize it. But then you have too many arms and so on. So you kind of have to know like what is the first step I need to do, and what is the next one? What do I need to kind of what can I leave out, and who do I need to work with me, and so on. So that what can I take from all the things what I done before, and what do I need to renew? So kind of being clear of those because steps to take, because we always have too little time and money and also kind of energy. To
certainly.
So that's kind of very, very important not to do kind of what you don't need to do. But that's also kind of a clear, like still that you have to kind of visualize that in practice. But then very often, and that was something that I struggled quite along with doing my thesis, that there was something kind of pessimistic about those stories. Some kind of a down, like kind of a negative tone. And I was figuring a long time what it is, and then I kind of figured it out that is the trust in what you do
in the process.
In the process, and kind of your vision and what you've been thinking, and have a courage of putting that to life. Because usually if you have something, some new idea, it's something that is in your head. And it's not done by anybody else, so it looks weird for everybody else.
Certainly.
And people often ask, like, huh? What is this? And do you really think it's going to work? And you have to have a lot of courage to say, like, yeah, I'm sure it's going to work. Because again, it usually takes a long time before you can show it, and it has so many iterations of these, like you have to then next question and what you have to solve and so on. So it doesn't work out, and then you have to go back to the drawing board. So there might be years of time. So it takes a lot of courage, and and why there was this negative tone in it, it was probably because of the, you have to kind of take a step away what people used to do. And that takes a like, okay, I see what you're doing, but I'm not doing it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other people start to kind of resist you as well. Like, who do you think you are? Like, why do you think you are more clever than we are? And so it is, we are social animals.
Certainly.
And it's really hard to do things in a different way that all the community is doing.
Exactly.
And that is taking a lot of courage. And we don't respect that very often.
No, of course.
As for the entrepreneurs or the people who are really putting their new and creative ideas forward.
Exactly.
And I think we have to nurture that a lot.
Definitely. I think first of all, that's extremely interesting, the model. I think you just describe also the innovation process to some extent, and I think this is like extremely interesting also for the startup community to kind of see the work of your PhD as well, kind of in action, because I think these are things that we often hear, but like you said, it's so important to actually have the trust when everyone else is doubting. And I guess after that also comes that you need to be able to communicate it and consistently keep getting it out there, because usually people don't trust it so much. But we talk in the startup community, perhaps in Europe a lot, compare ourselves to Silicon Valley, where there is a much more empowering culture. One could say that I think we can definitely improve on this aspect, that we try to nurture the entrepreneurs, like you said, and really support. I think here in the Finnish ecosystem, really in the nest of the Finnish innovation ecosystem, I think we could also do a better job in lifting each other and empowering, nurturing this, because it's certainly difficult. And meanwhile, you were working on in your thesis, you were working on kind of looking at these multi-time Olympic gold medalists. It's also a similar recipe in organizations, right?
Yeah,
so that's really the bridge.
It is, and I was
extremely interesting.
Yeah, and I was kind of all the time when I was doing my thesis, so I did it for the university, all the universities, so the University of Technology and industrial engineering, so the leadership side of it.
Yeah.
And so I used the sports, which I knew very well. So that kind of world, just as an example, because if you won twice the Olympic gold medal, so you probably did something right.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
Yeah. So after kind of 4 years, you can repeat the win. So you kind of outplay the others. So I was interesting, because it's very hard to say, like, okay, who is successful in life.
Yep.
So I thought that's some kind of measurement.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
So even if we're not seeing it as a creative, maybe being the in sports, but if you look at the sports is all the time improving.
Yeah.
People are finding out something new because they want to outplay others.
Right.
And that was also interesting in these 5 athletes that when they won the first one and the second one, they were kind of different athletes. It's a different story.
Yeah.
Each time, like Pertti Karppinen, who won 3 times.
Yeah.
So it's kind of every game is different,
right.
And you 4 years older, and there's a new competition. And
you might have had an injury in the last few years, and you have to get creative.
Exactly. So how do you do that, and how do you again kind of can outperform? So I think that was a really interesting. So it doesn't, even if it was question about the sports, it more that human process of kind of how do you come up those ideas, and what's critical in that process?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really important takeaways also for the organizations to take with. And you said that because to me it's at least a surprise that you said that you were also studying the teams, because often we see, of course, the athletes as these like solo athletes who especially maybe in skating or in the Olympic Games, there are many single athletes who have made it, but of course they have huge teams behind them, which you don't really think about, that it's maybe not the athletes' ideas, but it might be the whole team's ideas. So
exactly, yeah.
So what did you look at when you studied like the team, and what did you find out?
Yeah, it was, first of all, it is always a unique story. It is, there's not the two similar things. So what I was trying to look at with this 6 critical element was what is similar.
Yeah.
So what can I kind of draw from everything, but yes, it is a different story.
Yeah,
and sometimes there is the creative is the athlete, but most often it is somebody behind it.
Yeah.
And it can be a long story. For example, with Matti Nykänen, who was the all-time biggest ski jumper and had a kind of a nasty life.
Yeah, certainly.
or maybe it was okay for him, but it looked a bit...
it looked a bit... It was certainly different.
It was certainly different, and a wild life.
Yes.
But his coach was really a guru.
Yeah.
And but I wouldn't say also Matti did his share. So he was figuring out, even if he was maybe not handling his life very well, but he was really motivated about the jumping, and he was spending all his time for improving the jumping.
The jumping.
And was really thinking about it and feeling all the body in every position. So when the coach who was guru and invented really how to accelerate, from how to add speed from the nose of the jumping hill, so Matti could do it. So very many jumpers, they are a little moment in that kind of black hole when they're jumping, when there's a burst of energy, and when you get there and then you fly. Yeah. But Matti could kind of repeat that very exactly, where he needed to do all the angles of the knee, and do what was asked. Yeah. So that was a good thing. But it was a long process of where they. I'm not telling the whole story here, but it went all to the like kind of quick cameras. That time they used what the U.S. Military was using for missiles, to detecting missiles. So Matti Pulli was using those cameras to detect what is happening in that moment. That moment. Yep. And he kind of narrowed it down, and there was a lot of little sparks, but the really big spark came to him when he was figuring out why does for some ski jumpers the speed actually accelerate when they come to the flats. Which is kind of against the physics. Certainly. But he was then seeing in television the Einstein's theory of what is it that called in English, the
not the relativity theory.
Relativity theory.
One,
thank you.
That one, yeah.
And about the kind of
we go in the terms of physics.
No, in English suddenly. So anyways, how the planets are kind of on their like orbits and so on. Yeah. So and there actually the speed accelerates when they come after the curve. Yeah. And suddenly he kind of understood that when there comes the pressure against the hill in the right moment, so meaning the jumping, so it actually accelerates the speed out of there. And then he used some professors, his friends in physics, that they counted the knee and the force and so, which Matti was able to put into the action. Right. But this is a long story now, but anyway.
They certainly went to the core of things.
Exactly. Exactly. But that was the coach. Yeah. But sometimes it was the combination of a lot of people, like actually here as well. So we needed an Einstein to kind of help, to kind of get that idea.
And he probably wasn't alone either to figure out those ideas. So
no, he was to get to the U.S. military. So there was an American professor. He had a German professor who were kind of trying to figure it out, and so on. So it's actually a kind of interesting.
Always an interplay.
Yeah, exactly. Where did you get all the ideas? Where do you not get the knowledge? What you put into the play? So it's actually usually a very big chain of collaboration with many people.
Yes.
Kind of knowledge put together. What you actually
in a different way.
Yeah.
I think that's well put. That's creativity in a nutshell. Yes.
Exactly. Because we don't really invent anything.
No.
It is more a kind of a
putting together all the ideas. Certainly.
What the others have built.
Yeah. Exactly so. And then we try to do it a little bit better. And I think that's certainly what I think most are trying to do. Also here, of course, in little Finland, we try to look at what everyone has done globally in each our sectors, and of course try to find new ways to do it. And hence my next question is that what would be the most important takeaways that we as for example startup entrepreneurs or simply people in workplace could take from these teams or these successful athletes and their teams? Like, what would you say are the most important things that we could do better as teams as well?
Yeah, well, I think there's first of all those 6 critical elements. They're all very important, like they have to be nurtured and kind of kept in mind that but usually it's some of them are less it's more troubling than the other one. But I think one is that because there's always a long time, so the drive, you have to kind of nurture the drive, and you have to nurture the questioning, the being kind of all the time questioning yourself, but you also can I do it better, and finding that solution, like searching for the solution, and then that self-courage to put that in action. I think that is the third thing that I think we underestimate.
The power of the trust in what you're doing in a way.
And finding people who kind of give you energy and also give that self-courage to continue. Usually need only one people that says like, you're doing great.
Yes, I believe in you and you're doing great. I definitely think that's the most difficult thing to find. So that certainly is something that one needs more of.
Exactly. But that's why it's good also to gather with this like-minded people together, that having these kind of hubs where there's more people that you understand the trouble, and you can kind of give that a little bit of that help of understanding and support.
Definitely. I think we talk about that a lot here as well, that we could do even more things together here, because it tends to be that most are just working on their own thing and we don't collaborate as much. Maybe that's not so natural in Finnish culture either, that we go to ask for help or just like have a small talk over lunch. That doesn't come so naturally in here, but then again, this is a very multicultural environment, so that sort of happens. But I think we can do definitely more of that.
To say that still, that with that collaboration, so that is the best way of building also the ideas, because if you think that none of us is actually very creative. We are all creative, but we don't invent really alone anything. So we are putting things together. So collaborating with somebody is that we are all the time building others' ideas. So when you say something, it resonates to me in some way.
And then you build on top of that.
I build, and when I'm saying again, so it kind of resonates again somehow differently on you than what I say.
Exactly.
So in a way, that conversation all the time, it builds the ideas.
Certainly. certainly, and that's also a really good takeaway. And I think you also partly kind of answered the question that. But I suppose I could actually ask that again, because I think this is such an interesting question also for me as a kind of team leader or as a founder also, to understand like how could I do an even better job to nurture that kind of questioning you said, and nurture the the drive in a way has to come from me and has to come from perhaps the leaders of every organization to some extent. I think that's also something that we heard from Juha when talking to him about team leadership. But what would be like some concrete tips that I could do better to support my team in being creating and performing perhaps better as an creative team?
Well, I think there's many things, but maybe I pick two.
Yeah.
And one is that, like you said, like, okay, you have to have the drive and nurture that, but I think everybody needs to have it, and as a team leader, it's kind of to really inspire every day. It's not that you say like, okay, we have fun, but how do I inspire you? I know that what you like, and then I can kind of twist that and like kind of
try to
get you spark. And so that's really important as a leader and team leader. And the other one is I would pick is that we need to explore all the time. So I think it's those quality questions of kind of spar each other with questioning.
With good questioning.
Yeah. And finding and looking and who could help and seeing like you should maybe collaborate that one, and you should maybe look at that one. That's
try
an
to
interesting
connect different perspectives in a way. I think that's really interesting. So you said like encourage creativity, certainly, in the sense encourage questioning, which I believe is difficult, but definitely can be done probably in many different ways. And it's I think that's a pretty popular topic, like how to give constructive feedback, for example, or how to question in the right way, for example. I think that's a whole own world of topics, but that's definitely one. And then maybe bring out the drive in each individuals, try to motivate them and find what really drives you, and try to get kind of that kind of collaborative drive, or that communal drive in a way.
Exactly, because that kind of builds, it kind of bounces to and puts the flame much bigger than a single flame. It's kind of when everybody has that kind of a passionate drive, then it's much more than the sum of the individuals.
Exactly, which is also always the most difficult thing, I think, when starting out. You have to try to find those people who are extremely passionate, and unfortunately I would say it has been very difficult in the field of mental health, where it's such a stigma to find such people who are really that passionate about. But that's fortunately changing now. I feel like many are more and more interested also to work with mental health, but also well-being overall, and there's, I think, all of these topics are of course linked to that. How do we get the most out of the creatives also, or people in the creative industry, and that's also something that we are working with more closely probably.
And we tend to do so like if we think about the motivational theories, so it is the autonomy, what we can ourselves decide, and how do we put our capabilities to work with the others. So we are all different. So we have different capabilities. We have different wishes where we want to really autonomy, where we want to really put our passion into. So as a leader, you kind of have to know each of your team members.
Yes.
So what is that spark? What interests you? When you said about well-being, so what is your hook into this theme? So we very often think about others that they would have the same one. But they don't.
Of course.
So for sure.
Yeah,
they don't.
for sure.
They have something
of their own,
yeah.
Which is their perspective that they bring into the equation, right? So
exactly.
That's certainly.
And as a leader, you have to kind of dig that out.
Yep.
And use it.
I think that's great. Juha was also saying, he was giving this example, like I don't know if it was a real example, but he was saying that kind of as a CEO, for example, for a company, that you just come out from your office and sit with your organization, especially if it's a bit bigger organization. He was saying like that there was this this example where the employees were just like very surprised that the CEO had come out just to have a cup of coffee with the employees, and he didn't really have an agenda, but he came out to sit. I think that's something that everyone could do more of. Maybe in smaller organizations more natural, and that's also where usually innovation and creativity, the sparks happen, and when companies grow older it becomes less inspiring and also I think maybe more individual work, maybe less collaborative even, but
yeah, but I think that's like leadership is a contact sport.
Yeah.
so you can't lead if you don't have a contact.
Yeah.
So you have to be close enough to be able to lead.
Yeah.
And very often we think that we go far away and think that okay, we can steer there. No, you can't.
Yeah.
So there's always those people, like even if a big organization, you have somebody you are close to, and then they are close to somebody else, and so on. So, but if you really want to affect a person, then you have to be able to kind of be close.
Yep. Leadership is a contact sport. I think that's good to end with for today. We'll certainly need to have a second conversation about this, I think, in the fall. And for our listeners, this was the last Maria 01 Oyama collaboration live session for this summer, and we'll probably continue then in August next time. But with that, I say thank you, Susanna. This was really inspiring session.
Thank you, and have a great summer all.